From AATH, the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor, this is Laughbox, the podcast for laughter and humor professionals. Here's your host, Chip Lutz.
Well, hello, friends, and welcome to the podcast, Laughbox. I am Chip Lutz, your host, and today is an awesome day, again, because I get to do something as a person. I get to talk to Melissa Mork. She is a professor at university someplace in Minnesota. I live in Wisconsin, so I don't pay much attention to Minnesota, but I'm really happy to have her on the show. I know we'll get a lot from her expertise because she's got an enormous brain. Seriously, one of the largest brains I've ever seen in my entire life. So welcome, Dr. Mork.
Thank you. Oh, it's so nice to be here. I am really honored and flattered that you noticed my brain. Thank you very much. So.
Well, I mean, that's just me. I mean, because I know that, you're really, really smart. So I know you because we've been buds for a while. But for our listeners, if you can tell them a little bit about who Melissa Mork, Professor Mork is.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm a doctor of clinical psychology, and my students call me Dr. Mork. In the classroom, outside of the classroom, they refer to me just as Mork, which makes me feel like a football coach. But
Yo, Mork!
Yo, Mork! Can we talk about the syllabus? So I teach. I'm a professor of clinical psychology, and I chair the Department of Psychology at University of Northwestern in St. Paul.
So what's your favorite part about teaching? I mean, that's got to be, it's got to be constantly changing for you. It's got to be one of those things where I like no classes, because I used to teach undergrad classes, so no class was the same, but it was always, rewarding. But, what's some of your favorite parts of, molding young minds?
I love taking the content that we're discussing in the classroom and making it funny, or talking about stories that are funny, or my own personal experiences that are funny. And I don't do it like constantly. I'm not a stand-up comic, but I love being able to talk about, conflict resolution, and we'll talk about like the tenets of conflict resolution. And then I talk about, conflicts with my two teenagers and how do we resolve it. But I tell funny stories about how that happens. And so I really love the ability to bring humor into the classroom. And frankly, the students are super grateful that I have a sense of humor and that I can show my own self-deprecating humor, and I can laugh stuff off, and I can be really transparent and authentic about my screw-ups because it gives them permission to screw up and laugh. And I will say, if it will either be, every experience you have is either a good time or makes for a good story. And so if you're not having a good time, this is going to be a good story. Oh, my Lord,
isn't that the truth? I tell people all the time, it's like, what you really need to do is think like, in a couple of years, this is going to make a hilarious story.
Yeah. You will laugh about it, I promise. And if you're not laughing about it, you need to go to therapy so you can get to a place where you can laugh about it.
Where you can laugh about it, yeah. So that's pretty much how I look at everything that, I do, as far as, if it's really a crappy situation, it's like, this is certainly going to make a hilarious story.
Yeah.
I might as well just start laughing at it now.
Yep, let's look for the funny now.
That's really funny. Because, what's kind of neat about what you were saying, that in your classroom environment, to me, you're taking theory and making an application.
Yes.
Theory is nice, but application is what works. And so your ability to then take it and make it real and tangible is, helping them kind of like make that span. Because we get a lot of, you sat through all the classes where you get all the theory and theory, but what the hell do I do with it? Right.
They drone on, and then they test you on it with multiple choice, and then you forget it all. But that is exactly what I want to do with my students, is I want them to be able to take whatever they're learning and apply it in their own life, because otherwise it's wasted. So if we're talking about Freud's theory, or if we're talking about Albert Ellis or whoever, let's actually start unpacking it and seeing how it applies in your own life. And how is this going to change you? I want the classroom experience to be a transformative experience, and so when they graduate, they have skills in real life, in marriage, in parenting, in the workplace, not just stored theory in their brain.
Well, so but with your students, so are they all like in the pipeline to become psychologists, or are they just like a class that is one of the cores that they have to take because they've got to take psychology?
Well, no. Well, Intro to Psych is kind of a gen ed course.
Right.
But I still want that to be a transformative experience too. But most of the classes I teach are counseling related because it's a clinically oriented program.
Okay.
So, and I'm a clinical psychologist. So we're doing, counseling theory and abnormal psych and counselor identity and that kind of thing.
What's the most fun thing do you think that you do in the classroom? I mean, stories are fun, but do you like do any other like fun stuff that is like you have them like write different scenarios and they've got to like do some role play through it? I'm just making shit up, but what do you do that's fun?
I don't do any of that. There is no room for fun in the classroom unless I am at the center of it.
It's all about you. No. You are the puppet master. Oh, so go back to my. What are some other like the? What do you think are the fun things?
Fun. I mean, so I'm just such a nerdy psychologist. I think like the really reflective activities and the conversations in small groups about hopes and dreams and how do you listen to somebody and how do you encourage somebody so they have to actually do it. They have to talk about what are your passions and your hopes for the future, and somebody else has to do reflective listening to that. So I mean, I don't know, it's not all kicks and giggles, but for me it's fun because the students, when they leave, they're like, this is awesome, this is something I gotta go home and do this with my boyfriend, or I'm gonna do this with my roommate or whatever. So
I'm gonna go home and analyze my boyfriend.
That's pretty much
last words of a relationship.
In abnormal psych, my instruction at the beginning of the semester and many classes is please do not diagnose your friends, family, or yourself when we're talking about this particular disorder.
Yeah, that's what I always hate about when I talk to clinicians. I always think in the back of my head, are they thinking about what I'm thinking about?
Yeah, I want to promise you, I am not analyzing you unless you give me your insurance card and a $25 code.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, otherwise,
see?
I just can't be bothered.
Because I got
other stuff to do.
It's because it's so funny. Cause I don't know why I have so many friends that are clinicians, and they all have that nod down. Where they're just like nodding at you and like
Do they use silence? I love using silence,
the silence
with
and
people. I just sit and wait.
And the nod. Yeah. The silence right now for our listeners, is making me highly uncomfortable, but it's all good.
It's probably making them uncomfortable. They're listening for a purpose here.
She's getting great enjoyment of it, because this is a woman who today was taking pictures of me and drawing mustaches all over them, and then sent me the picture of them, and just was laughing so hard she was crying.
I literally was crying because I just made you way more beautiful than you generally are.
That's right.
So anyway, since the focus is on you now, I got a couple questions for you, because this is what I do is I ask questions. I don't really answer them.
Okay.
Enough about me. Let's talk about you.
Let's talk about me. That's how I actually live my whole life. Let's just talk about me.
Yeah, enough about me. What do you think about me?
Enough about Mork. We don't want to talk about Mork anymore.
Yeah, we're done. So Chip, tell me, where does the name Chip come from?
Well, it's actually I just put her glasses on. I'm just like, feel like I'm blind.
Yeah.
Where does his name Chip come from? I actually been called Chip since birth. It is an interesting, well, not really interesting story. My mother decided that she was going to call me Charles Wesley because she thought that some way, it sounded like regal, that someday I would have a lot of money.
Sounds very Methodist.
Does it?
Yeah.
We're Lutheran. But I guess it's in there. But there was a Chuck across the street and a Charlie up the street, and so she was just like, when she called me for dinner, since we had 6 kids, she just wanted to make sure I came, so they decided they were going to call me Chip. So it was 1967, so I've been called Chip since birth.
Are you the youngest child?
I am, of 6.
How many boys, how many girls?
5 boys and 1 girl.
6 boys, 2 girls in my family.
Right, where do you fall?
7, I'm number 7.
Are you really?
Out of 8, yeah.
Hats off to the youngest kids.
Yes, babies.
Well, it's because we know that our parents love us.
Yeah.
I mean, either like oldest kids, because the first pancake never turns out the best,
right?
And all the ones in between are wondering, oh, do mom and dad really love me? I don't know. But the youngest, I mean, you just know.
Yeah. And so we walk into every room with, ta-da!
Ta-da! Here I am with the expectation that everything's going to go exactly how you want it to go, because we're just the cat's ass. I mean, we are it.
On the other hand, we feel like we have something to prove our older siblings.
That is so,
don't you think?
That is so true. Yeah, because I remember when I've got 2 older brothers that were in the Navy that joined before I did, and so like I thought, okay, I graduated about 25% of my high school class, so that's why I ended up in the Navy. But I knew that like the brother that was closest to me in age was 5 years older than I am. I was like, all right, so I was in the silent competition of like, I'm gonna pass him up, and then I did, and then it was kind of anticlimactic because I felt bad afterwards, because I called him. I was like, hey, in the Navy, when you make chief petty officer, it's a big deal. So I was like, and it was my first time up, and I got promoted, and he had been up like 6 times and not been, and I was like, I made it, and he's like, okay, hey, that's really great. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
Good
it was
for
like
you,
it was like
GFY.
yeah. GFY, absolutely. That was a discussion we had earlier today. For those of you who don't know, there are two meanings for that. One is good for you, which isn't really one anybody uses. The other one is something else, so you can kind of figure out what that would be.
Yourself.
Yeah. So hashtag GFY.
GFY.
Good conversation earlier today, but good question on that whole name thing. Because
so Charles Wesley.
Yes, Dr. Mork.
You were in the military.
22 years.
22 years, and then when you got out, you had like paralyzing freedom to make a choice of what's next.
Right.
How did you decide? Like, where did you go next? What did you do?
What did I do? Okay, when I first retired from the Navy, I didn't leave the house for a month. I just kind of enjoyed being in the house. I didn't shave. I traded in my regular uniform for a sweatpants uniform.
Yes.
But the thing about sweatpants is they lie to you. I mean, sweatpants will tell you, it's okay.
You're
eat
good.
that donut.
Yep.
It's okay. Eat that cookie.
Yep.
But
this isn't depression. This
right.
is relaxation.
They lie to you. And then when you go to put on regular clothes,
yeah,
you're like,
this ain't happening.
Sweatpants, I thought you loved me.
That's right.
I thought you were my friend. But no, you're just like, no, screw you, Chip. So
a week at home, or a month at home.
And then I'd been teaching some classes in leadership, and I found out that people speak for a living, and I thought I could do that. I don't really have any other discernible skills, so I should probably do something that I'm halfway decent at. So that's what I started doing. That's what I've been doing the last 10 years.
So why humor? How did you end up in the field of humor studies? Like, what's this all about?
For humor studies, I don't really think there's so many people that are so much smarter than I am in this association. They know so much more, about
brain-based learning and all
this stuff.
Yeah.
Like for me, I know for me, humor's always worked. It's been that one thing that has been the constant in my life that has helped me deal with different situations. So as a leader, it always helped me connect with my teams. That I knew that, and it was funny is that if I could get the people around me to laugh about something, or if I laughed at myself about something, it just created a completely different atmosphere. So when I was working on my master's thesis, and this is several years before I retired, I did on humor and education, because for me, the professors and the people I always remembered were the people that helped me, laugh and made me enjoy the entire process. And if I enjoyed the process, then I was going to retain more than just like you were talking about, like the rote memorization where you bring it in, you barf it out on a piece of paper, and then I never think about it again.
Right.
But those were the people who always meant something to me. And so it was kind of interesting that I didn't even know about ATH, but I had found out about it through the World Laughter Tour because during the course of my life, with my past marriage, I had gone through my wife being deployed, and I was a single parent with 4 kids, ages 10 and younger, and so it was the ability to laugh that really helped us through all of that. And so then I found out about what they were doing at the Pentagon with deployed service member families with these laughter clubs to help them laugh, and I thought, I want to do that. So I paid my way through the training. And, actually my last job, I was commanding officer at the Navy Reserve Center in Milwaukee, and we had people that are deployed, and I actually, in uniform, held these laughter clubs with service member spouses, right? And I would have other officers walk by me and look at me like, you can be pretty comfortable in your masculinity to do something like that. I'm like, look, man, it helps.
No kidding.
It absolutely helps. So, and then through them, I found out about ACH and applied for a scholarship that year. And it was kind of funny because Alan Klein, who actually I referenced in my master's thesis work, he had a scholarship for humor in the workplace. So I wrote this essay, and then afterwards I read like usual, I didn't read the whole thing. I just read hey, it's a humor in the workplace. So I wrote it, and then I realized it was only supposed to be 600 words, and I wrote 1,200 words. So when I submitted it, I wrote on the cover letter, if this is too long, only read half. So that's why I think that that's why I think that I won, and I came to my first conference, and that was in 2006. So I've been, with the association, and kind of had an interest in humor since, because it's just, like I said, it's that one thing that's always been a constant in my life.
Yeah.
So help me connect with people and cope with different things. It's just been awesome.
Yeah.
How about you? How did you get involved? How did you get here?
Okay, so I was interested in humor studies, and in 2010, I went to a conference for the Association for Personality and Social Psychology out here in San Diego, and I attended the pre-conference, which was the Psychology of Humor. Mm-hmm. And it was a very serious academic conference, and in this pre-conference that I attended, there were 12 people, 10 presenters, me, and the sound guy. So I was the one person in the audience, and the presenters were like Bob Mankoff, who is the editor of the comics in the New Yorker. So you've seen the New Yorker, the very funny comics. Yeah. Bob Mankoff is the guy who draws and writes many of them and selects the others. I mean, they talked about him on Seinfeld when Elaine was trying to get her cartoon into the New Yorker. Bob Mankoff was the guy they were talking about. This conference was such a pissing contest, sorry for the language there, that when a presenter would get up and present, he would not make eye contact with any of the other presenters, would only speak to me. Because I was the only person in the audience that they didn't hate, right? And at the end of this conference, I mean, at lunch, we break for lunch, and Bob Mankoff comes straight for me. He goes, "Who are you having lunch with?" And I said, "Nobody." And he said, "You'll eat with me." So he grabbed me before. So everyone else had to eat alone because they couldn't stand each other.
Oh, crazy.
And I had lunch with Bob Mankoff, which to me was like, one of the Rolling Stones. Yeah. So I left at the end of that conference thinking there has got to be something better about, humor studies. That sucked. It really sucked. And so I literally got back to work on Monday morning and opened up my computer and I Googled therapeutic humor and up came AATH.
Really?
And so I went to the conference in Chicago. And
25th. Yeah.
I had so much
That was a good
fun.
conference.
I laughed until I cried. And I had asked my administrative assistant to sign me up for this conference. And she said, "Do you want to go to the pre-conference?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." Turned out it was the Humor Academy. So I was enrolled in Level 1 Humor Academy, my first conference. And I found my tribe. I went home after the first AATH conference and felt like I had found my place in this world. Right. I love academia. I love being a clinician. I love my profession, but there was a piece of me that had not been expressed until I found AATH. Right. And so since then, I come to every conference and I love it. And up until recently, I'd been in a lot of leadership positions. I was the director of the Humor Academy for a while. I was on the board. And then last year when my husband got sick, I had to step down from all of those roles. And so this year I'm here just as a participant, not as a leader. And it's just been so refreshing to really be able to absorb
and just go to the sessions and
just
stuff.
Just like love it and be free to enjoy it.
It's so funny you say that because like when, like I said, my first conference in 2006, and then I think it was 2008. I was on the board. I was on the board like for several years, and I was president. I was past president, and I was conference chair a couple times. I never got to do
enjoy it.
I never got to do. I was always working, man. Yeah. And so it's like this time in the last couple of years, I haven't been able to come, and I finally got because of varied issues. And so this year, I was like, oh man, it's gonna be so nice, just kind of like hang out and talk to people, and just like you said, absorb. Yeah. Just because there's a certain energy.
There's so much energy here, and the thing is I don't regret any of the leadership positions that I've had, and I'll probably do it again. But for now, I'm just in a place where I need to be taken care of, and this is one of the best forms of self-care for me that I've engaged in for a really long time. Yeah,
I remember my first conference. I had told a friend, I was like, I'm not gonna be able to go back to real life after this because real people are not this nice.
No, or this funny. Yeah. Or this like concerned for your welfare. Like you get up in front of them to do something, and they just cheer for you no matter how bad you suck. They're there for you. Right. It's a phenomenal experience.
It's funny you say that because I was just sharing that yesterday with a couple years ago. I was conference chair in Philadelphia, and they were talking about one of the speakers I had brought in. They're like, "What's the audience like?" I'm like, "This is like an absolute dream audience." I mean, this is like the best audience there because they want you to do well. Yeah. I mean, you could go up and drop a deuce on stage, and they're still going to be happy. They're going to be like,
well, let's stop and say we did.
They're going to be like, hey, that's so happy for you.
Yeah, right. They're very invested in your success, that's for sure.
It's so funny. So you've been coming since Chicago, man. That's a while. What that was 6 years ago. 6 years ago was Chicago, and we'll be back in Chicago next year.
I know,
awesome.
That's great.
So if you had to pare it down, all right. So you've been in all these leadership roles, doing all this other stuff. So what are some like, I don't want to say key things that you've really like been realizations for you in your humor journey? You know, of going to the conferences and stuff. What have been some of the biggest things that you've taken away from being a part of the group?
You know, I think the theme this year is resilience, and for me, it is profoundly meaningful and timely because my husband just passed away a couple months ago now, and my kids, I have two teenagers, ages 13 and 18, and the three of us, our broken little family now, we're hobbling through it, but the way we hobble through it is by laughing, by making each other laugh. And to me, that is really at the heart of our surviving this, and at the heart of us being resilient in this, is that even the night that he died, we went home and we laid on his and my king-size bed and we cried, and then one of us said something, and I don't remember what, but it was funny, and we started to laugh. And so we're laughing with the tears of sadness still wet on our faces, and that pretty much defines our family right now, is that we are laughing with the tears still wet on our faces. And we will be okay. I know we will be okay, and part of the reason I know that is because when we laugh, we are forecasting to each other that we will be okay.
Right.
So to me right now, that's the most profound piece.
Wow.
For humor.
Okay, I'm gonna take a real quick break, so I gotta give her a hug.
Oh, thanks.
I'm leaving that on there because I don't have anything to say after that story right there. So, your turn to ask questions.
Okay. He's crying, everybody. I made Chip cry.
Pretty close. Yeah. So
what about you? So what's next for you? You're a speaker. You're all about leadership. You're a funny guy, and humor is infused in what you do and how you lead and how you present. What's your next goal? Where do you go from here?
Where do I go from here? That's a good question. I ask myself that all the time. Like strategically, I have no idea. Tactically, like I've got a learning plan for the summer. Like being at the conference, I just have heard so many people talk about different things. I realized there are a lot of things that I really need to learn. So I was like, all right, so every summer I set up a learning plan for myself because I think it's important to like always have some. In the summer, usually when I have a little bit more time. So I was like, all right, what I really need to focus in on this summer is to shore up some of my knowledge on some of the things and really do a deeper dive on things. Because I know some things, but there are a lot of things I don't know anything about. So my learning plan is really get a little bit deeper on humor and resilience, and really think about neurologically some of the things that are happening, so I can actually understand things a little bit more, if that makes sense.
Is that so that you can relay it to your audiences?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's I've been doing a lot of thinking lately about because I look at I'm a great application based speakers, like because I know the theory, but I've also actually been in charge of people, so I know what leadership looks like and how to do things, and that's what I share with people, is like how to do things. Just like we were talking about in your classroom.
Yeah.
Theory is nice, but I want to know what works. So it's with that. I was thinking about, all right, so what I really like to do is look at some maybe like the neuroscience of the leadership things the application-based things that I talk about, where do I get that? And I was like, all right, so these are the people at the conference I actually need to like connect with, so I can, when I don't know something, I can reach out.
You have a resource.
I am a horrible researcher.
Yeah.
When I took stats class in graduate school, the guy came in, the professor came and was like, well, this is a grad class, everybody gets an A or B, and I was like, I'll take the B. I missed half the classes, and when he would do the bell curve, he'd have like one grade to start off here and a big cluster up here. I was at one down at the bottom.
You're always that outlier that made him look bad.
Bell curve, but I was working full time. I was taking 9 hours, trying to finish up before I trained. All my kids were small, so I was just like, something had to give, and I was like,
not my priority.
It's stats.
Yeah,
stats is leaving. So I never really quite learned, the the formal stuff on researching. So,
but yeah, we have researchers here.
Exactly,
So
the
you
people
don't need to know
people are smarter than me, and I was like, these are the people I need to connect with so I can set up my learning plan for the summer. And then after that, it's I'm just thinking about how to be a better benefit to the people around me. With that deeper dive, how do I take what I know and package it up so it's just a better benefit to people? Because I think people want a little more a deeper knowledge, and I want a deeper knowledge and stuff. Because like I said, I know it works, but I don't know.
You're not sure why.
Yeah,
right.
I just know that these are the things that have worked for me. I know that leadership's it's personal in nature. That the only secret to leading people is really all about people, and so you have to look for ways to connect. And going back to the other thing about humor has been the one thing that helped me connect with people. So
absolutely,
even if I had like a crappy job I was giving somebody, if we could have a little bit of fun with it, it just made it better all the way around. Yeah. So absolutely wrong. What's next for you?
What's next for me?
Besides conquering the world and being so awesome.
Okay, well, I'm working on that, but okay, so I am really exercising self-care in all of this, all that we're going through right now. And one of the things, you're going to think I'm nuts, but one of the things I love to do, I just learned how to do last year, is pottery, ceramics. I like to throw pottery on the wheel.
Okay.
And I like to make coffee mugs, and I like to put faces on these coffee mugs. And right now, like cartoon faces. And a lot of these faces are either funny or grief stricken.
Yeah.
And so I make these mugs. I fire these mugs.
Do you have your own kiln, or you take them someplace?
At the university.
Oh man, you're such a cheater.
I know.
Because kilns are so expensive. I was like, man, you got your own kiln. I'm just like,
I have
dude.
free reign of the pottery. They took pity on the old widow and said, here, you can use all the equipment. And so I do it all there. But
that is awesome.
I love that. So my summer is pretty much going to be throwing pots.
That's cool. You should put it on Fiverr and like have people like buy them from you. That would be cool.
Yeah.
You have your own little like.
Because right now I just throw them because I mean, how many mugs do you really need?
How many do you need? And then you give them to all your family,
Yeah,
and they're like,
oh.
they're like, shit.
Yeah.
Melissa's gave us another mug.
I know. They're like,
We better
put it on
she's coming.
display.
She's coming over. Get the mugs out.
Get that dumb mug out.
And you're there. No, this is a depiction of you. This looks like you. It's like, oh yeah, it looks just like me.
Thanks. I love it. So that's my summer. My summer is going to be biking. I'm going to be biking. I'm going to be paddleboarding, and I'm going to be throwing mugs on the wheel.
So you get a whole tactical plan like for the summer, like I do. And
Yeah.
then I figure, well, I'll think strategically in the fall, get it all worked out on where I'm going with different things. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, if people want to find you after today, where do they connect with Dr. Mork?
I'm
sorry, just where do they connect with Mork?
Yeah. How do they find Mork? I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. Did you know that one of my tweets was read by Jimmy Fallon on hashtags? Did you know that?
No.
That's my claim to fame.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I know. You can't find it anymore.
You should get a tattoo of his face. It's with that
Jimmy Fallon
with the tweet underneath it.
Yeah,
that would be awesome.
That would be awesome. So I'm Facebook, Twitter, and I'm on the list of faculty at University of Northwestern St. Paul. Just if you're looking under psychology, I'm the first one because I chair the department. So.
I chair the department. I'm the chair.
Yeah.
Well, I really enjoyed talking to you. This is such a different format because we just like had a fun conversation where we just like talked about different things and shared some different things. So
I don't care what other people say about you. I think you're fine. I think you're a nice guy. I think you're even a little bit funny, no matter what anyone else says.
What's funny is I don't really care what other people think either. That's pretty much how I live my life. It's like it's funny. I'm very. On the things I care about, I'm very chip-centric,
yes.
And I don't really think that makes me a bad person.
Oh no!
I think it actually makes me a human being.
It makes you really honest.
Because it's like that's how I classify things. I used to tell my staff all the time. I'd be like, when I was in the Navy, I was like, I classify everything one of two ways: things I care about and things I don't care about. If I do care about it, I'm going to be, kind of involved. If I don't care about it, you have the full authority of the commanding officer to go out and do whatever the hell you need to do to take care of it because I don't care.
Knock yourself out.
So you come to my office, you're like, oh, this and this and this. And I'm like, you know what? You got the con. Take that.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, it just saves me a lot of stress in my life. And just
Smart.
Set
your priorities.
Stick with the things that I actually care about. Well, thank you, Dr.
you.
Mork, for your time today.
This was great. Thanks.
This is Laughbox, the podcast for laughter and humor professionals. Laughbox is made possible by a grant from the National Speakers Foundation and is brought to you by AATH, the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor. Find out more at aath.org. Be sure to review Laughbox on iTunes. For show notes and more information about today's conversation, visit laughbox.aath.org.